friends, welcome back to Diversity and Inclusion Storytime. This month we are going to be reading some books that are like fairy tales, and some, like this last one is just going to be a book that has like some fairy tale concepts in it, like a castle. And so each of our characters is going to be a little bit different. And so the first one is called Lon Popo, and this is like the story of Little Red Riding Hood, and it's from China. Once long ago, there was a woman who lived alone in the country with her 3 children, Shang, Tao, and Potsy. On the day of their grandmother's birthday, the good mother set off to see her, leaving the 3 children at home. Before she left, she said, "Be good while I'm away, my heart-loving children. I will not return tonight. Remember to close the door tight at sunset and latch it well." But an old wolf lived nearby and saw the good mother leave. At dusk, disguised as an old woman, he came up to the house of the children and knocked on the door twice. Bang, bang. Shang, who was the eldest, said through the latched door, "Who is it?" "My little jewels," said the wolf. "This is your grandmother, your Popo." "Popo," Shang said, "our mother has gone to visit you." The wolf acted surprised. "To visit me? I have not met her along the way. She must have taken a different route." "Popo," Shang said, "how is it that you come so late?" The wolf answered, "The journey is long, my children, and the day is short." Shang listened through the door. "Popo," she said, "why is your voice so low? Your grandmother has caught a cold, good children, and it is dark and windy out here. Quickly open up and let your Popo come in," the cunning wolf said. Tao and Potsy could not wait. One unlatched the door and the other opened it. They shouted, "Popo, Popo, come in." At the moment he entered the door, the wolf blew out the candle. "Popo," Shang asked, "why did you blow out the candle? The room is now dark." The wolf did not answer. Tao and Potsy rushed to their Popo and wished to be hugged. The old wolf held Tao. "Good child, you are so plump," he embraced Potsy. "Good child, you have grown to be so sweet." Soon, the old wolf pretended to be sleepy. He yawned. "All the chicks are in the coop," he said. Popo was sleepy too. When he climbed into the big bed, Potsy climbed in at one end with the wolf, and Shang and Tao climbed in at the other. But when Shang stretched, she touched the wolf's tail. "Popo, Popo, your foot has a bush on it." "Popo has brought hemp strings to weave you a basket," the wolf said. Shang touched grandmother's sharp claws. "Popo, Popo, your hand has thorns on it." "Popo has brought an awl to make shoes for you," the wolf said. At once, Shang lit the light and the wolf blew it out again, but Shang had seen the wolf's hairy face. "Popo, Popo," she said, for she was not only the eldest, she was the most clever. "You must be hungry. Have you eaten ginkgo nuts?" "What is ginkgo?" the wolf asked. "Ginkgo is soft and tender, like the skin of a baby. One taste and you will live forever," Shang said, "and the nuts grow on the top of the tree just outside the door." The wolf gave a sigh. "Oh dear, Popo is old. Her bones have become brittle. No longer can she climb trees." "Good Popo, we can pick some for you," Shang said. The wolf was delighted. Shang jumped out of the bed, and Tao and Potsy came with her to the ginkgo tree. There, Shang told her sisters about the wolf, and all 3 climbed up the tall tree. The wolf waited and waited. Plump Tao did not come back. Sweet Potsy did not come back. Shang did not come back. And no one brought any nuts from the ginkgo tree. At last the wolf shouted, "Where are you, children?" "Popo," Shang called out, "we are on the top of the tree eating ginkgo nuts." "Good children," the wolf begged, "pluck some for me." "But Popo, ginkgo is magic only when it is plucked directly from the tree. You must come and pluck it from the tree yourself." The wolf came outside and paced back and forth under the tree where he heard the 3 children eating the ginkgo nuts at the top. "Oh, Popo, these nuts are so tasty." "The skin's so tender," Shang said. The wolf's mouth began to water for a taste. Finally, Shang, the eldest and most clever child, said, "Popo, Popo, I have a plan. At the door there is a big basket. Behind it is a rope. Tie the rope to the basket, sit in the basket, and throw the other end to me. I can pull you up." The wolf was overjoyed and fetched the basket and the rope, then threw one end of the rope to the top of the tree. Shang caught the rope and began to pull the basket up and up. Halfway, she let go of the rope and the basket, and the wolf fell to the ground. I am so small and weak, Popo, Shang pretended. I could not hold the rope alone. This time I will help, Tao said. Let us do it again. The wolf had only one thought in his mind, to taste a ginkgo nut. He climbed into the basket again. Now Shang and Tao pulled the rope on the basket together, higher and higher. Again they let go, and again the wolf tumbled down, and bumped his head. The wolf was furious. He growled and cursed. We could not hold the rope, Popo, Shang said, but only one ginkgo nut, and you will be well again. I shall give a hand to my sisters this time, Poutsy, the youngest, said. This time we shall not fail. Now the children pulled the rope with all their strength. As they pulled, they sang, hee-ho, hee-yo, and the basket rose straight up, higher than the first time, higher than the second time, higher and higher and higher, until it nearly reached the top of the tree. When the wolf reached out, he could almost touch the highest branch. But at that moment, Shang coughed, and they all let go of the rope, and the basket fell down and down and down. Not only did the wolf bump his head, but he broke his heart to pieces. Popo, Shang shouted, but there was no answer. Popo, Tao shouted, but there was no answer. Popo, Poutsy shouted. There was still no answer. The children climbed to the branches just above the wolf and saw that he was truly dead. Then they climbed down, went into the house, closed the door, and locked the door with the latch, and fell peacefully asleep. On the next day, their mother returned with baskets of food from their real Popo, and the three sisters told her their story of the Popo who had come. The end. Oh, it was kind of spooky. Rapunzel. When Rapunzel was a baby, a witch had taken her far away from home, through the forest, and to his tower. Rapunzel was never allowed to leave. When the witch needed to visit, she would call out, Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair. Rapunzel would throw down her long braid, and the witch would climb up to the tower window. Rapunzel was lonely in the tower by herself. Sometimes a mouse or a bird would visit her, but she longed for a real friend. One day, a prince was riding through the woods when he heard a melody coming from the tower window. He thought, there must be a girl up there as lovely as that song. Suddenly, the witch appeared. The prince hid in the bushes. He watched her call for Rapunzel and then climb up her hair. The prince waited for the witch to leave, and then he too called, Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair. Rapunzel let down her hair, but when she saw the prince in the window, she gasped. Who are you? She asked. The prince bowed and introduced himself. Then he and Rapunzel began to talk. They talked for hours. Rapunzel told the prince about life in the tower, and the prince listened. He was falling in love. The prince began to visit Rapunzel every day. She loved when he told her stories about the outside world. He talked about his horses and the beautiful streams he liked to walk along and the little village nearby. Rapunzel wished she could see what was beyond her tower. Come with me to my kingdom, said the prince one day. The witch will never let me leave, Rapunzel sighed. The prince took her by the hand and promised to help her escape. Later that day, the witch saw the prince climbing down Rapunzel's hair. We will leave tomorrow, he called up to his love. The witch was furious. As punishment, she cut Rapunzel's long, beautiful hair. Then, with a wave of her wand, she cast Rapunzel from the tower deep into the forest. The next day, the prince returned. Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair, he called. Rapunzel's beautiful hair came tumbling down, but when the prince climbed up to the window, the witch was waiting for him. The witch put a curse on the prince that made him unable to see. Blindly, the prince escaped from the tower. He called Rapunzel's name, but she was too far away to hear him. He wandered the forest, searching for his lost love. Many days passed. The prince had almost given up hope. Then one day, he heard a lovely melody. It was Rapunzel. He was sure of it. Rapunzel, he called out. Reunited, Rapunzel and the prince embraced. When Rapunzel learned that the witch's curse had made the prince blind, she wept and wept. But as Rapunzel's tears fell onto the prince's face, something magical happened. Her tears broke the witch's curse. The prince could see again. Rapunzel and the prince returned to his kingdom. There, far from the witch's tower, they lived happily ever after. So it looks like those characters in that story were from India. The Very Last Castle. In the middle of a small town stood something you might not expect, a castle. It was, in fact, the very last castle. There had been others, but over time they had all been taken down or fallen apart or been destroyed. All but one. For reasons no one could remember, no one ever came out, and no one was allowed in. Then there was Ib. Every day she walked past the castle, all alone. Every day she stopped. She looked up. She saw the lone guard standing stone still. Plunk. Since no one had been inside the castle, the townspeople had ideas about who or what was in there. Monsters, said Miss Wicks. Thud, thud, thud. Giants, said Alex. What do you think's in there? Hiss, hiss, hiss. Snakes, said Ib's grandfather. Maybe it's something terrible, Ib thought one day. Maybe it's something else. The next morning, Ib walked past the castle. She stopped and looked up at the tower. No guard. Ib had an idea. She floated across the moat, walked up to the door, and with all the strength she had, knock, knock, knocked. Hiss. Ib didn't stop running until she was sitting in her desk at school, scared and out of breath. Maybe Grandpa was right. She didn't tell anyone what had happened. Not long after, an envelope arrived. Inside was an invitation. Your presence is requested at the front gate of the castle on Sunday at noon. Everyone told Ib to stay away. Monsters, said Miss Wicks. Snakes, said her grandfather. Giants, said Alex. Maybe it's something terrible, Ib thought. Could it be something else? On Sunday, Ib stood all alone outside the front gate. With a loud thunk, the drawbridge began to lower. She trembled. She looked up at the tower. Empty. She took a deep breath. Slowly, Ib did something none of the townspeople had ever done. She walked inside. It turned out Miss Wicks and Alex had been right. There were monsters, and there were giants, but no snakes. Welcome, came a voice, a kind voice. It was the guard. He removed his helmet. He was much older than Ib had expected. I'm the last one left. May I show you around? For the rest of the day, Ib and the guard, his name was William, visited every corner of the castle. Before long, they were pruning near the great hall and harvesting by the palace. They ended up where they had started. Why now? Asked Ib. All the other castles are gone, answered William. Someday I will be too. I want someone brave to take my place, someone curious. Will you help me? Ib thought about William all on his own. She thought about her family and friends outside the castle. She thought, and then she knew. Yes, Ib replied, but I have a request. In the middle of a small town stood the very last castle. Sometimes someone came out. And everyone was welcome in. The end. So those stories were all about different fairy tales or castles, monsters, things like that. And each of our characters looked a little bit different. And so that was that's kind of the exciting part about diversity and inclusion storytime, is that you get to see a character that either looks like you or maybe looks different from you. So I hope you enjoyed all those stories, and we'll see you next time.